Okay, so that's on.
I like your hot pink nails.
Yes, I like it.
Thank you.
Ooh, they're great.
All right.
I didn't know that, well,
When I shine in it,
when I picked, I didn't know it was gonna be hot pink. I thought it was gonna be a little softer pink. But
Hi, everybody. We are finishing up the Trevor Noah book, and I honestly feel like we're getting to the best, some of the best parts here, you know, what it's all about. So again, these are my moms, Mildred Walker, Gabrielle Newton. So we're just going to start right at page 200, right? Chapter 8? Or no, chapter 16, Cheese Boys.
Yes.
Okay. So, any certain thing that you want to talk about here? Because I got a bunch of stuff highlighted, but anything that you want me to just kind of go through and then you pick up where you want to? Okay. So, it kind of starts off with him explaining about one of the friendships that he has, and he was the friend that, I was going to read it. He was that friend who believed in you and saw the potential in you that nobody else did, which was why so many of the township kids gravitated towards him and why I gravitated towards him as well. Bogani, I'm not for sure. Bogani was always popular, but his reputation really took off when he beat up one of the more infamous bullies in the school. And that cemented his status as sort of the leader and protector of the township kids. And I think he might have been the leader of his little group too.
Yes.
So, and this was the beginning of his hustle in, do they call it the ghetto? They call it Alex, because that's what that place was called, the hood.
Yeah, they called it the hood.
Okay, the hood.
Yes.
Okay. So, and I just like some of the things that he says to describe the things that are going on there and how you're kind of like, what kind of happens to you when you start hanging out in this type of an area. So I was going to cover those things, but we can talk about a lot of stuff. And it kind of, the first thing it says on the next page is that Alex, you are who you are depending on where you live as you go into it. Like first there's like these really nice places, then there's like people that are working class people, then there's like people that are, you know, like maybe apartment dwelling, and then there's like shacks, and then there's shacks on shacks, and shacks on shacks, and it kind of gravitates into something.
Yes.
And so the reason why they're called Cheese Boys is because where they live is like the second step into the hood, not quite all the way in the hood, where the cabbies are, right? Where the taxis are.
I like this. It says, for us, the ultimate upgrade was to throw on a slice of cheese.
Yes.
Cheese was always the thing because it was so expensive. Forget the gold standard. The hood operated on the cheese standard.
I love it.
Cheese on anything was money. If you got a burger, that was cool. But if you got a cheeseburger, that meant you had more money than the guy who just got a burger. Cheese on the sandwich, cheese in your refrigerator, that meant you were living the good life. In any township in South Africa, if you had a bit of money, people would say, oh, you're a cheese boy. In essence, you're not really hood because your family has enough money to buy cheese.
Exactly. And they were cheese boys. And that's what they would call them in the hood too. Like, oh, you're the cheese boy. You know, like they never really had all the way hood status. They were always called cheese boys because they operated out of somebody's garage, so obviously you already got something going on. You know, and of course they're living, a lot of them are still living with their parents because it's 50% unemployment rate for young black men.
Mm-hmm.
So that's hard, you know.
One a little higher on the bank were the cheesier cheese boys.
Yeah,
they looked down on them because they were just the first row of cheese boys.
That's right. There was a status even in with the cheese boys.
So I just wanted to say, he described Alex, it's a hive of constant human activity all day long, people coming and going, gangsters hustling, guys on the corner doing nothing, kids running around, and there's nowhere for all that energy to go. No mechanism for it to disperse, so it's erupted periodically in epic acts of violence and crazy parties.
Yeah, because Bogani was on the fringe, you know, he claimed to be hood.
Yeah.
Depending on where he was, you know. He said, the cheese boys are up there, up the hill. We are still hood. He wanted to be part of everything.
Yes.
Kind of.
And then I was just
It was good business tactic.
Yeah, and they were business people, so they used these things to get them to where they wanted to be. The hood was a complete sensory overload for me, but within the chaos there was order, a system, a social hierarchy based on where you live. First Avenue was not cool at all because it was right next to the condemnation of the minibuses ranks. And then it kind of goes into like where it is, but this is where they were. They were in that area that wasn't really actually that cool at all. But the minibuses were there. They would open up their garages. They started their hustle every morning with getting the orders from the minibus drivers, starting their CDs. Then they elevated their hustle into loaning money.
Yes.
So what is that called? Was it a loan? Is it a loan shark? Is that, I don't know.
They weren't really loan sharks.
They
They were
weren't
good
really-
loan people.
Right.
Yeah,
They
okay,
loaned
so I
their
didn't know if
mom
there
who
was a-
needed some
yes.
debt or whatever, and they didn't overcharge them. So that's why all these moms liked them too, you know. They got them some money, carried their groceries home and whatever, so they knew where they were, where they're living and all this, and they're kind of liked.
Yeah,
Looks
so
like,
I was
seems like.
gonna go over some things here that I think are important if you're reading this.
Sure, nice.
Every morning they woke up, maybe their parents got to work or maybe not. Then they got outside and showed on the corner the whole day talking SHIT. They're free. They've been taught not to fish. They've been taught how to fish, but no one will give them a fishing rod. So he's saying like this hood life, it's a certain particular thing because, yeah, you can say all these people are free, apartheid is over, but they still don't have the rod.
Right.
So there's still like this environment that's not going anywhere. And I just wanted to go on to say, there's a very fine line between being civilian and criminal. And then he goes on into how he feels about this thing that he's in. When you're in the hood, there was this thing, like, it isn't like, they were like, oh, that guy, like, he's selling crack. The thing in the hood was like, oh, little Jimmy's selling crack now. Like, everybody knows everybody. Everybody has a connection to everybody.
Yes.
No matter how big of a gangster you are still connected to that area. And he said it's the beginning of like grassroots. To him, that's how he's analyzing it. So this chapter is really cool because you get a perspective about how somebody sees something that other people have such negative affiliations with. And it isn't like a great place, but he's describing it in a way where like you understand how people could be attracted to that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I really like this.
He says here, you know, these cheese boys were in a uniquely fucked situation, he says, when the part ended. You know, the parents sent them to a good school, they had kind of a little job and were saving money, and even they matriculated. They have seen the other side of the fence, whatever, but they're not giving the chances, you know, to reach their potential.
Right.
Yes.
That's a lot of times here too, you know, like the kids go to school,
I
they
agree.
see the rich kids and what they all have, and even if they have the same kind of grades or whatever, they will not get in the super fancy college or whatever because they don't have the connections.
Yes. So I was going to read this other part. Crime looks for a young kid who needs support. Okay, so he's saying crime is in the hood, crime is grassroots. Crime looks for young kids who need support and a lifting hand. Crime offers internship programs, summer jobs, and opportunities for advancement. Crime gets involved in the community. Crime does not discriminate. He's just describing how people get caught up in things because the things you want to get in, they're discriminating against you. The thing that's available to you, there's no discrimination in that area. So I just wanted to touch on that a little bit because his words are so precious. Like, that's why I really like this chapter because I feel like he describes it so well. What do you think, Mildred?
I like when he said, in the hood, gangsters were your friends
Yes.
and neighbors.
Yes.
You knew them. You talked to them on the corner, saw them at parties. They were a part of your world.
Yes. They weren't a stranger or somebody you were afraid with. That was just Jimmy, and that's what he's doing now. Because he can't get a job. That's what, you know what I'm saying? Like, so I really love that, and I just feel like this is a chapter that sealed the deal for me to let me know, like, this is the best book I've read all year.
Yes.
I can honestly say that. And then here it goes, cash is the one thing everyone in the hood needs. And this is when they began to like borrow people money. But it also gave them a chance to have another hustle. Because in the hood, if you have a daughter, she never gets to play outside. She doesn't get to mingle with anyone. But if you're a cheese boy and you're helping the mom, borrowing her money and then carrying her groceries in and doing things for her, then you have connection to her daughter. And then they were able, with all these parties they threw, invite these fly girls to their parties too. And then like get favors from other people that have been trying to meet these fly girls. It wasn't like they were offering anything. They were just offering, you might have a conversation with her. I'm gonna make sure she shows up. You remember that part?
Yes.
So I thought,
I like this part right here too. It says, let's say we see two guys haggling on the corner. A crackhead trying to sell a DVD player, and some working dude who wanted but doesn't have the money because he hasn't gotten his wages yet. They're going back and forth, but the crackhead want the money now. Crackheads won't wait. There's no layaway plan with a crackhead.
No.
So, what's that, how you pronounce it?
I don't know, I said Bogani.
Yeah.
Bogani steps in and takes the working guy aside. Look, I understand you can't pay for the DVD player. Now he starts haggling with the guy. He says, "I'll pay you $120." He said, "Okay, cool." Then Bogani takes the crackhead aside. "How much do you want for the DVD player?"
they're making their deals.
"Yes, I want 140. "Okay, listen, you're a crackhead.
Let me break this down for you real quick.
This is a stolen DVD player. I'm going to give you 50.
But they just made 70.
Yes, the crackhead protests a bit, but then he takes the money because he's a crackhead. And it's cash, and crack is all about the now.
Yeah.
Then he says, "All right, we'll do the 120. Here's your DVD player. It's yours. But I don't have the 120. It's cool." And then it goes on where he finds out that he works at a shoe store, and he
The
tells
hustle
him,
goes on
yes,
and on and on.
okay, I'm gonna give you $10 because the Nikes cost $150, and here they done turned $60 into $200.
And a pair of shoes, you know?
Yes.
It's just amazing. But here, this is part about hey, let's make a deal. We'll bring the girl to your party and you get to hang out with her. How much can you give us? They're getting money for that. I don't have money, he said, but I have a case of beer. It's always money or a bargaining system, an exchange of a thing for a thing that has a better value than the thing that you want, which is, like how things are done. So I wanted to read this part too. We're going to read a lot out of this chapter because this chapter is too good. We're on page 217. A year passed, then two. I have stopped planning for school, and I was no closer to having the money to enroll. The tricky thing about the hood is that you're always working. You feel like something's happening, but really nothing's happening at all. I was out there every day for 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and every day it was how do we turn them 10 rads into 20? How do we turn 20 rads into 50? How do we turn 50 rads into 100? And at the end of the day, we'd spend it on food and maybe some beer, and then we'd go home and come back, and it was how do we turn 10 into 20? So he's just saying, like, they are making money, but they are spending money every day. They are really not getting ahead. Hustle is to work. Hustling is to work. What surfing the internet is to reading. If you add up how much you read in a year on the internet, tweets, Facebook posts, lists, you'd read the equivalent of a SHIT ton of books. But in fact, you'd read no books in a year. When I look back at it, that's what hustling was. It's maximum effort, but into minimum gain.
Yes.
And I don't think a lot of young people understand that. Like, they think that hustle really is going to create something for them, but the reality is it's not. And that's why I like this book. He is not dissing the hood. He is not dissing it. He is just putting it
Analyzing.
Yes, and giving people the truth because he's not benefiting one way or another. And I love this chapter.
Yes.
It's just so many good things in here.
That if I put all the energy into studying, I would have earned an MBA.
Whoa.
Right.
And done. But again, he's just wasting another year. His mom did not like these people. She did not want them in her house. She did not want them visiting her. She was not happy with that because she knew they weren't advancing him. She kept telling him, hang out with your cousin that's going to the university. He's like, no, I'm not going to the university. Why would I hang out there? She's like, well, you're hanging out in the hood and you're not hood. You know what I'm saying? So why not hang out in university? She's like, because I know wherever you hang out, you're going to get with that. So that was a little something that was going on with him and his mom too.
I like it where he said
Yes,
the hood is also a low stress, comfortable life.
There you go. You live it day for day. That's it.
All your
It has a gravitational pull. It never leaves you behind, but it also never lets you leave.
That's right.
Yes. And this chapter is so important. If you could get a young person to read this, that is like on a place where they're making decisions that might affect them forever, friendships, places they're hanging out or anything like that. This chapter just breaks it down so good. It makes it so it makes it seem so real what people are trying to say that we get criticized for saying. That's what I really felt when I read this. I'm like, young teenager boys need to read this. Like, don't you think?
Yes.
This would be the best book for a young man to read. If you could get your son to read this, it would bring you so much joy, I swear. Okay, so I like this part, because this I think is true in every hood and every little squad. It's on 219. The township policy itself as well. The township polices itself as well. If someone's caught stealing, the township deals with them. If someone's caught breaking into a house, the township deals with them. If you're caught raping a woman, pray to God the police find you before the township does. If a woman is hit, people don't get involved. There are too many questions with a beating. What's the fight about? Who's responsible? Who started it? But rape is rape. Theft is theft. You desecrate the community, that hood's gonna get you. So I like this part too, because people don't understand like how tight communities are. And it seems like when you're more in a community daily, the tighter you are with that community. Don't you feel like? Because they're there every day, like they're so tight. And
Yeah, it provides a floor, but also a ceiling, that comfort, you know?
Yes.
You cannot
Yes.
break out of it.
so I was just gonna say, there's this other policy, I hope I can find this. It was kind of like there's this unwritten policy that if somebody's mother asks you to do something, you have to do it. Unless you have a good reason not to do it. You cannot do something for somebody's mother unless you have a reason to not do it. If you,
The way it works in the hood is that if any mom asks you to
There you
do
go.
something, you have to say yes.
218.
Can I send you is the phrase. It's like everyone's your mom and you're everyone's kid. Can I send you? Yeah. And so, and get some milk and bread, and it's cool, you know, but you respect the mothers.
Yes.
Yes.
And I feel like some of that is lost sometimes in the world, but I feel like sometimes the lower you go, the more these basic things are still in line with how society really should be run, because that really is how we should be doing things. Like if somebody's mom asks you to do something, she's asking you out of the kindness of her heart, and you ain't got nothing to do, you should be going to the store and doing that.
Like growing up, that's the way our
Yeah.
neighborhood was.
That's how it was. I remember when we were in Germany, my grandpa, I think he did it because he loved us and he wanted us to do stuff, but it was like a normal thing. Like he would say, hey, go get me a beer from the little corner store and then get yourself a candy. And then you would go over there and you'd come back with your little case for him. But it was like part of like what you did, and you just tell the guy at the window, this is for Yotso. You know, like how people used to kind of even purchase things per name. Like,
Right.
you wouldn't have to give your kid $20 because they'd probably lose it on the way to the store. You could just say, just tell them this is for the walkers. We're gonna square up with them on Friday. Go ahead and get the bread, the milk, whatever. You know, and that's lost in this society too with
Yes.
credit cards and debit cards. There's no trust or anything like that between businesses and families, which is kind of what makes us not loyal to anything.
And you spread your money. Everyone must know of your success benefits the community in one way or the other, or you become a target. If you don't share, if you're kind of selfish, you know, they'll kick your butt.
Yeah, but I like this part too, because then at the end, when he goes through all this, then he also says, one thing you can say about the hood is, the hood just happens.
Yep.
Stuff just happens. And then the weird thing is, because everybody knows stuff just happens, that as soon as that stuff happens, 10 minutes later, everybody's back to normal. Like nothing shocks anybody anymore.
Right.
So I thought that was kind of cool. But then the switch for him was when he got that camera. Remember
Yeah, they felt bad.
yeah, he couldn't go beyond that, because then it wasn't white people insurance, because people used to always say, oh, you're just, white people have insurance, don't worry about any of this stuff, you know, and then they would trade and bargain and whatever. But when he got that camera and he saw the family's pictures, then he said, no.
It was full of pictures of a nice
Yeah.
white family on vacation, and I felt like shit.
Yeah.
He says, you know, he kind of really put him down, because that's some memory for them. They're people too, you know.
And he wasn't raised like that. He wasn't raised to take, you know, to do those things. That's why his mom didn't agree with when he decided to venture out there, because that's not, she never raised him like that.
No, she didn't.
And then on 222, it says, because we didn't live, he says it's easy for people to do things because they don't live with people. He was just saying, like, it's easy for me to do this to so-and-so because I don't live with them, they don't live with us. You know, we wouldn't do that in our community to another person, you know what I mean? And that's why, like, in their community, if you steal, you get dealt with. If you rape, you get dealt with. But in the world, you can go take that from somewhere else and bring it back in the community and sell it. You just can't do it with the people you live with.
Right.
He said, I haven't stolen a camera, I have stolen someone's memories. I've stolen part of someone's life.
Yes.
And he says he reflects how much pictures mean to him from his family,
Yes.
and so, so he kind of...
So we're going to wrap up the chapter with 224. But the truth was, we were always more cheese than hood. I chose to live in the world, but I wasn't from the world. If anything, I was an imposter. Day to day, I was in it as much as everyone else, but the difference was that in the back of my mind, I knew I had other options and I could leave, and they couldn't. And it hurt him to think about it that way too.
Yes.
So we're gonna pop right into The World Doesn't Love You. This is Mildred's favorite part. This is the part where he gets arrested. But I'm telling you, if you can let your kid read this book and then read chapter 16 with them and have some dialogue about it, you'd be so happy about that, because you can have a conversation with this, because it's not a personal conversation. It's a conversation about opinions and what do you think about this phrase and what do you think about that. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a good way to start a dialogue if you have a kid that don't want to talk to you about anything that he's doing right now.
Right. And it's another guy talking about it. It's not you
Yeah.
trying to force your
Opinion on your kid.
experiences or opinions on him, That's what the teenager usually revolt against, Yeah, the good old days or whatever, something like this.
So I'm going to start it off for Mildred. I'm going to let her, if she wants to take her. My mom never gave me an inch. Anytime I got in trouble, it was tough love, lectures, punishments, hidings. Every time, for every infraction. If you get with that, you get that with a lot of black parents. They're trying to discipline you before the system does. I need to do this to you before the police do it to you, because that's all black parents are thinking from the day they're old enough to walk into the streets where the law is waiting. So I like this too, because this is like wraps this whole chapter up in even though there's a big story behind it. So if you want to talk about it, go ahead. This is awesome.
Yeah, on page 229, it says, I got pulled over. The police officer pulls him up. Well, he steals his stepdad's vehicle, and he gets pulled over. And he asked the policeman, why did you pull me over? Is it because I'm black? And the police officer says, correct. License and registrations, please.
We're not just, we're just going to keep it 100. I'm like, okay.
Of course, he stole the car, so anyway, he ended up going, the police officer takes him to the police station, and they arrest him for suspicion of grand theft auto. But I just like how he looks at being in jail.
Yes.
It was really funny to me how when they took him to the cell, and they had all these different groups of nationalities there, well, he's considered colored, not black, which is, separate nationality because he's mixed. And then they had some other people that was Indian, and they had some white guys there. And he stands there in the doorway like, okay, what group am I going to go to?
He's like, I don't know, right now I don't know.
You see this gang of black people, and he was like, they look like they're gangsters, and they will kill me, and if I say the wrong thing, and blah, blah, blah. And then he looked at he finally goes over, he picks the white guys to go hang out with, because they look like they were businessmen, and he's like, they probably was white collar crime, or blue collar crime, or however you want to call it. But it was just funny to me how he had to pick.
And I think it was funny how he went through different emotions. First he was not scared, then he was scared. Then he was not scared, then he was scared to death. Then he was like ready to cry. Then he's like, I can't cry.
Yeah. Then he pretended like he was tough.
Yeah. I'm going to be crazy up in here. That's what I'm going to be. I don't want to get raped. I don't want to get raped. I don't want to get raped.
Yes. It was just, this chapter is really good.
Way kind of considers, I could make a call. I could call my
But he did not want to call his mom. He did not want to call his mom.
I could call my mother, but she's not the character witness I want right now.
She's not going to help me.
Yeah, that's because she
told me she wouldn't.
Yeah, told him that if he goes to jail.
If I get arrested, don't call me.
That's right.
So,
but it was really good. And I also like it when, he had some other experiences in jail, but I like it when it was time for him to go before the judge.
Yes, I have it highlighted if you want to read it. Because that part was funny.
It says the bailiff read my case number, and the judge looked up at me. How are you? He said. I broke down. I've been putting on this tough guy facade for nearly a week, and I just couldn't do it anymore. I'm not fine, Your Honor. I'm not fine. He looked confused. What? I said, I'm not fine, sir. I'm really suffering. Why are you telling me this? Because you asked how I was. Who asked you? You did. You just asked me. I didn't say, how are you? I said, who are you?
Oh, Lord! But even in that instant, his mom had his back.
Yeah.
He broke down. He called a cousin or a friend whose dad was supposed to help him out, but they didn't. They went to his mom. They told him what was going on. She paid for the lawyer. She paid for the bailiff. She did all that. And then she let him come home and pretend like he wasn't going to tell her what was really going on. And then she had busted down to him. You know what I mean? Like she had to like,
So, who do you think paid for you?
So $243.
Lawyer.
Or she said, I know you see me as a crazy old bitch nagging at you. She said, but you got the reason. I write you so hard and give you so much shit is because I love you. Everything I've ever done, I've done from a place of love. If I don't punish you, the world will punish you even worse.
Yes.
The world doesn't love you. If the police get you, the police don't love you. When I beat you, I'm trying to save you. When they beat you, they're trying to kill you.
Yeah,
Yes,
that like
yes.
really touched me, and I'm sure when she said that, she was so serious.
Yes.
But, and I'm pretty sure those were exact quotes, because certain things you're not going to forget in life, you know? And then it goes on to my mother's life, and this kind of wraps it up for us. This book's so good. I just can't keep telling you guys, when you're a book reader, you always find books that are okay, but you can't always find a book that's so good like that you could recommend to anybody to read. I can honestly recommend anybody to read this book as long as they're like 6th grade and up. What do you
Yes.
think? Yeah, I think you gotta be 6, like going into middle school. But this book's, and then again, like you could be 100 years old and read this book. It could be like from 6th grade to 100. You can be man, woman, whatever. You
Like
could
I-
enjoy this book.
Like I said, I've read the book twice.
Yes, it's awesome.
Because it is so good.
And these are rare finds. Like, I've been reading forever. I read all the time, and I've never been this entertained with a book. That's all I gotta say. I mean, so this book kind of breaks it down. Like Trevor says, my mom is super fly, super hot. I'm sure she dated lots of people, but in my life, she's only dated 2 people: my dad and my stepdad. And then we know about Trevor and his dad. Now we're going to tell you about Trevor's stepdad. So Trevor's stepdad had a temper. Remember the mulberry bush? So, and Trevor, the first time Trevor got a hiding from his dad, I think his stepdad was in the 6th grade, and he said it was terror. He said he realized then that all the times his mom spanked him, it was for reason and purpose and teaching, and that what he got from his stepdad, that was just terror.
Yes.
And, you know, like, so.
And he never felt a part of his stepdad's life. So it was him and his mom, and then the stepdad, mom, and his brother.
And his stepdad wanted a traditional wife, and his mom was not traditional. She was well educated and well versed in language, and she had 0 problems expressing her opinion about things, and she was a logical person and a reasoning person, and she believed in a budget, and she was just like the perfect wife, really, but not for someone that wanted someone that just cooked and didn't talk and didn't tell other people their house business.
Right.
Because those were his problems. Okay, so we'll just do it again. It just stopped. I don't know why. Okay.
I mean, he couldn't understand because he wants a traditional woman. Why he ever married her mom?
Yeah, Trevor
And
couldn't
the way my
understand that.
mom explained it, the traditional man wants a woman to be subservient, but he never falls in love with a subservient woman.
Yes.
He is attracted to independent women. He is like an exotic bird collector, she says. He only wants a woman who is free because his dream is to put her in a cage.
Yes.
So then I think like these experiences, I think the experience when Trevor got a hiding from his stepdad made a difference in how she approached her other kids, because she didn't really spank them. But she told Trevor the reason she didn't spank them is because Trevor was a fat kid, so he was okay to spank. And his brother
His bottom was made and
for